What's the weirdest thing a medical professional has casually said to you? After destroying my knee riding BMX at 17, the emergency surgeon said, "Wow, really fucked that up." 10 years later, in another serious knee injury from riding, I saw the same surgeon. He did a great job on the first one. First words out of his mouth were, "I remember you. Fucked up the other one, huh?" I like this guy. He waited 10 years for that moment. Was living in a foreign country and had a cold flu-type illness. Went to the doc and he comes in eating a bowl of cereal. Already weird. Checks some things and says, "Do you know what AIDS is?" I'm in complete shock and say, "Yes, I do." He follows up with, "It's a virus and there is no cure." Goes on to explain why there is no cure. All while I'm seeing my life over as I know it. Finally ends with, "But you don't have that virus. You have a different one. Much more common and treatable, but I wanted you to understand why an antibiotic wouldn't work." Still in shock, I'm like, "So I don't have AIDS then, right?" He goes, "No," and walks out. What a roller coaster. This was in Switzerland about 15 years ago, and I'm American. Yes, he was slurping his cereal the whole time. He did explain the difference between HIV and AIDS. Guess he just wanted to come in hot and get my attention. Thanks all. My surgeon, during surgery to replace pins in my broken finger that had been pushed out by my own body. "I'm really getting them in there this time, you little freak of nature." Back pain, "I'm not young," doctor just said basically. "Well, that's just life for you. You're tall. So I'm just going to end up being a hunched over 90-year-old? LOL, you're not going to see 90. Pardon? How many tall old people have you ever seen?" "Oh yeah, okay." "How tall are you?" "I'm a 6-foot tall woman and I think about this a lot. There are no tall old ladies. Just little olds." Reminder, you shrink as you age. Those little old ladies used to be taller. When I was like 20, my endocrinologist took a good look at me and asked, "Are you okay with your face being so asymmetrical?" I had never really noticed it before, but boy have I noticed it since. Thanks for the complex a-hole. I had a doctor tell me that my metabolism is so slow that I would do very well in an apocalypse. My doctor told me this when he noticed my chronic low body temperature and asked me other questions about weight gain and pooping frequency. He said, "Some people are just built to hibernate. You're just like, hibernating all the time." This was in the same conversation where he diagnosed me with a sleep disorder too. Can't even hibernate properly. "If you don't mind, I'd like to show everyone pictures of your tonsils." According to her, I had the most disgusting tonsils she had ever seen in her years in the business, and gosh darn she wanted to show them off. I had a similar experience at a dentist. I apparently had a very rare problem, and even the oldest doctor only had seen this 2 times in his life. For the next few sessions, all other doctors were called in, and he showed them it. I was fine with it, but it was an odd situation sitting on the dentist chair while 4 doctors and a few nurses were around you and looked very interested what will happen next. So I was the real-life example for a textbook lecture. Following a checkup, "We're going to have to remove your testicles." "Just kidding, you should have seen your face." "My son is about your age and single. Do you want his number?" 1. Gynecologist. "Your vagina was approved." "I want grandkids and dang, this thing is a grandkid factory." My previous OBGYN came through my line at my old job. For some reason I blanked on who he was. Like I knew him, but for the life of me I couldn't remember how. He saw I was struggling and said, "Don't remember me? I'll give you a hint. Last time I saw you, you were in my office with your ankles in the air." Loudly, in front of a line of little old ladies fresh from church, wanting to buy flowers from the garden center. He was an amazing doc and figured out what was wrong with me when no other doc could. But in that moment the embarrassment could have killed me, LOL. Being a knowledgeable doctor and being socially inept often go hand in hand. "You just hang on right there, we will get you a wheelchair and admit it to the hospital. We have to do a colonoscopy, but don't worry, I will knock you out before sticking a camera up your ass." When I was 12 I had a dentist say, "Hold on, I think I might be counting wrong. You shouldn't have those yet." "Okay, never mind, those are definitely your wisdom teeth. Your mouth is just huge, I guess." They said it was the youngest they've ever seen anyone get their wisdom teeth. They called in every dentist in the building to come look at my mouth. When my girlfriend was in the ICU, one of the nurses sorta shrugged and said dismissively, "She's gonna die anyhow." She should have. Her kidneys had shut completely down, and she was so swollen that her tongue wouldn't fit in her mouth. We were making the decision whether to continue life support or not. She didn't die. A month and a half later, she walked out of the hospital and into my car for the ride home. This was a horrible thing for the nurse to say. Glad she bounced back and proved her wrong. She was a salty old nurse with a million miles on her. She would have been right had the stars and planets not all been aligned perfectly. A year after she left the hospital, we visited the ICU doctor, and he said most people who show up with her issue don't even make it past the ER and up to his floor. Nobody expected her to live past the first few hours. They said that even moving her bed from that room would have killed her because she was doing so badly. She didn't open her eyes until 3 days later. She went code blue 3 times before leaving the ICU, once with myself and her elderly mother right there. That nurse wasn't wrong, and she only said it to me outside the earshot of her family. I'm pragmatic enough to understand without emotion. My response was that she might. But until then, we're gonna fight for her. If you ever tried to have a baby, the kid would snap your pelvis in two and rip you in half, said by my gynecological surgeon. He said it in the most casual manner. I was mortified. I honestly think there's a thing with surgeons' brains where they're around it so much that they don't get what's normal to the rest of us after a while. I worked with palliative patients for over half a decade. Lots of gallows humor, etc., etc. Every now and then I forget to turn on my filter, say something wildly blunt, inappropriate, and sensitive, and realize I probably should not have said whatever it was when I see the look on the other person's face. Cue the quick subject change. Dr. You look great. How did you lose weight? Son, eating disorder, anorexia. Doctor, well, keep doing whatever you are doing. It's working great. Oh man, I had a family member who was dropping weight, and everyone was telling her to keep doing whatever she was doing. She was doing crystal meth. Thankfully quit it soon, she couldn't afford it. So yeah, none of use that phrase anymore, with anyone. I live in Ireland. The surgeon who replaced my hip is also a farmer. The day before I was due to be discharged, he came in on his rounds. He said, "I may or may not see you tomorrow. It depends on the dog." So I said, "Okay, what's up with the dog?" He told me the dog broke his leg and was having it set tomorrow, but he wasn't sure what time, so I said, "Sure, bring in the owl dog and I'll mind him." This is rural Ireland, bear in mind, and I was in the convalescent area of the hospital by then. And shortly after breakfast he arrived in. With the dog, lovely border collie with his leg in plaster. He stayed with me watching TV till the doc was finished replacing another hip and was ready to discharge me and we could all go home. It could only happen in Ireland. I asked my cardiologist I had growing up what the goop was they put on before echoes. He said, "Yak snot." I believed him for way too long. I was getting an EKG, sitting there with my full titties out, and the doctor tells me I remind him of a girl he used to see in college. Not me, but Mom. She's in remission for a non-Hodgkin's lymphoma that invaded her brain. She was getting a scan to confirm the cancer had left her brain pan, and the doctor came in and said, "Good news! We've scanned your brain and confirmed that there's nothing in there." Wait, did he say he wanted to be awake? When I was in the operating room waiting to get my appendix removed, I met the anesthesiologist and asked to him make sure I didn't wake up in the middle of it. I didn't want to be aware of what was going on. He counted me down, and right before it all went black, he said this to the surgeon. I remember thinking, "You asho," and then it all went dark. I don't envy anesthesiologists. I mean, they always ask their patients to tell something about themselves to distract them, and never hear the end of it. "You have pretty blood," followed by, "I bet you have heavy periods. Do you swallow?" He meant to ask if I have a hard time swallowing pills or not. I told an OBGYN during an exam my husband and I had just started trying to get pregnant, and she said, "Are you tracking your cycle or just fucking all time?" Hearing that come out of a small elderly black woman was freaking hilarious. She was close to retirement and had zero filter. Miss her. Was a teen and seeing my pediatrician. There was a baby or infant in another room wailing its head off. After a few minutes, my doc said, "Don't mind him, we just lopped his leg off." I was 18 at the time and went to the family doctor that brought me into the world. The reason was I was having great pain urinating and was leaking a pus-like substance. After getting a shot, I went to his office. I sat down, and he lit a Winston, rocked back in his chair whilst taking a big drag, and said, "I am going to talk to you like a Dutch uncle. If you do not know if it is clean, keep your goddamn zipper zipped up." Wow, you have the flattest feet I've ever seen. I had a really weird throat issue. It didn't hurt, it just felt like something was stuck in there. I had been a vegetarian for years at this point, and the doctor said I likely had a chicken bone stuck in there. Wouldn't take no for an answer. Haven't you heard? Humans will unknowingly eat an average of 7 chickens in our lifetimes due to them crawling into our mouths while we sleep. Went in for my checkup 6 weeks after my second kid, and the intern who was shadowing my OBGYN made the comment, "Oh hey, you're looking great," not to my face but to the bottom half of me. Do you have a similar story? Leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this one.